People who born deaf. How's your inner voice sound, or you just speak sign long in your head? My mom is profoundly deaf and I asked her this same question, totally not a stupid question. She said she thinks inosal. I have caught her signing to herself just like I sometimes talk to myself. I asked my niece this. She said she had an inner voice but it was more a feeling than a voice. She described it as feeling the vibrations from loud music. When she had her surgery, and she heard voices for the first time, her inner voice adapted. I've heard something similar from someone. They said it like the vibrations of music, or just with any sound that is. The only sound she could hear her head were just that. This reminds me, I can't find it, but they created a thing for deaf people so they can wear a jacket type thing, and when people talk it vibrates all around their body in different ways so they can know what they're saying. It works surprisingly well, and never knew humans can adapt to such odd forms of communication. Adaptability is one of the main reason we came to dominate this planet. And the invention of a pointy stick. And the invention of really hot and bright air. And the invention of throwing away food and water at the same time, then waiting. Fun fact, lots of animals deliberately ferment their food. That's what dogs are doing when they bury bones. Bone beer pog. Not deaf, but my brother is. I remember when we were in our teens on a family vacation and I caught him signing to himself when he was bored. The first time I saw it I thought he was telling me something but I noticed he wasn't making eye contact and it made no sense. That is when I realized he was thinking to himself. After that, my family and I wouldn't watch when we noticed him doing it since we figured it wasn't fair to know what he was thinking at times when the same couldn't be said for him. Did you ever tell him that he's thinking out loud? No, he knew he was doing it, and like I replied to someone else, he said it was rude when he realized we were watching and could hear what he was thinking. People talk out loud to themselves too, seems exactly the same. Yeah, I do a lot. And everyone is welcome to listen but spoiler it's a lot of swear words Lamau. A lot of god ducking damn it. A load of mother duckers on my goddamn nerves. For the first 5 years of my life I was technically deaf, I couldn't hear anything. I remember thinking by closing my eyes and imagining the thing I wanted to think. So I would close my eyes and see my own imaginary world. I can still do it but only in complete silence. It's a trait I will forever hold but am not mad at it. It can be very helpful in some situations. Edit a lot of people are wondering so I'll put it in the post. My eardrums collapsed during birth so when I was around 5 I had a surgery to fix them. Not sure how they did it or if the doctors are still doing it on people but am grateful they did it to me. Man, it's absolutely amazing to me that people don't think up entire worlds in HD when they think. Like that's the only way I think. That sounds awesome. I struggle to picture simple shapes in my mind. My head is full of sounds but it hardly ever produces images. If someone mentions something like the Mona Lisa, are you actually struggling to create a mental image of her? Can only speak for myself but I would only be able to imagine a very vague outline of the Mona Lisa which would only last for a fraction of a second. There would be no fill or detail to the image at all. Same for me. Someone says imagine an apple and I can hardly hold on to a rough outline of one and I have to keep redrawing it to maintain any sort of image edit. For everyone commenting, I know it's aphantasia. Y'all are blowing my mind right now. I can't imagine not being able to visualize things in my head. Yeah, I always thought it was like a metaphor when people would say imagine your happy place or imagine you're on a beach. I'd imagine it descriptively, like with facts of what a beach looks like, but no actual image. It's how I recall memories too. I can't see any, but I know the facts of them very well, so that's how I visualize. I think it's partially responsible for what makes me an analytical person rather than an artistic one. Damn. That's crazy. Whenever I have an idea, the way it pops into my head is like super fast imagery, but I've got all the details. I can imagine things deeply enough that I literally stop seeing and hearing anything around me. Edit, kinda like lucid dreaming, but I'm awake. Yo, how do you get anything done? I'm on the other side of the spectrum and I can't imagine the temptation to just live in your head if you've got such detail and control. I'm not sure why people are making fun of you. It's a legitimate question and I hope someone deaf can explain. But most thoughts we have are conceptual and they're not in words, so if they don't have an inner voice, I don't think they're missing much, but I have no idea if that's the case. Right? It was completely fine when it was asked a few years ago, but this dude gets shredded for it. This sub sucks more than it used to. Yeah. Let's build our own sub with blackjack and hookers. It should be noted that, even among the hearing, not everyone has an internal monologue. When I was young, I asked a relative if she thought in English or Spanish because she was Spanish but had lived in England for a very long time. She couldn't understand what I was asking her and ended up getting very upset with me, thinking that I was saying she couldn't speak English. She had no idea that people had an inner voice, and I had no idea that some people didn't. I speak 3 languages and I think in all of them, switching unintentionally to the language I spoke last. Sometimes intentionally. Sometimes I speak to myself in English, which is my 3rd language, to practice. Interesting fact: when you switch languages, you also switch personalities. Every language you speak has its own personality. For example, when I speak Russian, I feel very polite and use more fancy words, etc. Hope that makes sense, lol. Yes. I'm English but speak Dutch, insert Spider-Man Venom it's you meme to other comment, and alongside different personalities, I also speak with a different pitch even though the languages are very similar. I speak Dutch with a higher pitch and English with a lower one. I learned a little German in school, and I speak German in a higher pitch than English. I think it's partly because all of my German teachers were women, but I'm not sure. A neurologist named Oliver Sacks wrote a book called Seeing Voices. It was prescribed reading when I studied South African Sign Language. It might give some insights to your question. In a related tangent, schizophrenia among deaf people is different than for hearing persons. That's really interesting. Thank you. I remember reading about how auditory hallucinations with schizophrenia present differently depending on cultures. Some have negative critical voices, some have positive reassuring voices. A deafie here. Naturally, we can't even describe what it sounds like as we don't really understand sound in the way you do. Maybe the basics like deep and high pitches, but the difference between notes or octaves are something only understood through theory, i.e. reading about them. We don't understand what makes a singer good, but we for sure know how to tell if it's a good beat, provided it's loud enough to feel. As such, speaking for myself here, my inner voice is more literally like thinking. A mixture of instinctual understanding and the words that describe the meaning I want to express. I am a writer, so words are quite colorful to me. They convey a myriad of imagination. I also am a philosopher, so I admire and observe closely the metaphysics at play here. Words can occasionally come out in English as it is best expressed through English. Some come out of sign language as there are sayings that only make sense in sign language. It's a blend of both as well as the raw emotional output that form my thoughts. Also, there is the silence in between the thoughts. Depends on how much you pay attention, I suppose. It's really crazy to think about how when I read your comment, I read every word out in my head, and hear how it sounds, even if the person who wrote it don't understand sound at all. Do you have any comprehension of the relationship between letters and sounds? Is it clear to you what the difference between a vowel and a consonant is? If I were to make up words like HTKLP and MISC, do you have any idea why one of them pretty much can't be pronounced while the other can? I find this really fascinating. I do. I went through intensive speech therapy, so T's, P's, B's, S's, Z's, etc. were drilled into my mind. I can lip read too, so I can tell M's from P's, but not B's from P's. Have to rely on context to figure that out. Lip reading is no fun. Lots of guesswork. Ooh, opposed to you. Etc. etc. Breath EH as opposed to AAAs. One thing that stood out in all my training, there was this microphone attached to software that would measure how long one could sustain a vowel like ah, for instance. I could barely last a minute. My dad and other native hearing people lasted way more than that, and it really hit me hard. I didn't realize how people could keep talking different words in one breath and how many words they could fit in that same breath. Can I ask out of curiosity? I'm a language student, so I'm really interested in these things. Can you recognize when someone makes a G or K sound when lip reading? Because they are formed far back in the mouth throat, and I'm not sure how difficult that is to recognize. Yeah, that's another of these hard ones, haha, but not a lot of similar K or G words, so it's easier to guess, narrow it down. Go opposed to co. Green to crean. Kite to G. Etc. Context is everything. It's so important to establish eye contact. Otherwise, We might be jumping in a conversation we didn't know already started and boom, we're dragged behind a 100 miles per hour train, just wailing in the wind trying to hold on. I'm deaf. Hey, hi, I'm deaf. Then we point to our phones for typing or gesture to write on something. Super interesting, in many languages the B and PG and K sounds are interchangeable. For example, Korean, kimbap, a yummy food, is often spelled gimbap, as well as pak kwai bok choy as interchangeable words for the same Asian veggie. Not sure what this means, but it is a connection. That is interesting. Still, I wouldn't rather depend on lip reading. I'd rather just type it out on the phone or write it down. Guarantees clear communication. I did encounter one unique issue. Rare. He didn't know how to write. We were at an impasse only because he didn't really know how to gesture. I noticed, most hearing American people I encounter have no idea how to gesture. However, Europeans on the other hand, I have an easier time with them. They are used to dealing with PPL speaking different languages, having so many countries nearby.